Welcome to this week's edition of Influencer Table here on your number one station, RX Radio. Hi, I am Fat Boy, and you're listening to your number one station, RX Radio. Influencer Table is proudly brought to you by Pulse UG. Here we like to talk about the people that are making waves on social media. Influencing has become the next new big thing that everyone is talking about. Companies employ or engage influencers to help with their branding, their messaging. Influencers are powerful voices in steering conversation regarding social issues, political issues, all manner of issues. These people are a force to reckon with. And here at Influencer Table, we like to talk to these people and find out what makes them tick, find out how it is that one can become an influencer, and really just talk about the ins and outs of the whole thing people call influencing. So I welcome you to Influencers Table. And I would like to now also introduce you to our guests today on Influencer Table. And the way I like to do it is I like for them to introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with my guest over here in the red shirt. How are you, sir? And tell us who you are.
I'm all right. My name is Moses Echodu, and I'm a sports enthusiast and also a sports influencer.
Sports influencer, Mr. Moses. And you, sir?
My name is Geno Eric. Yes, I love sport and I do content creation majorly for sport.
All right. So when someone thinks of influencing, normally they're thinking of the socialites, the people who are partying and dressing lavishly and seeming to live a high-flying life and or have a chaotic life that draws a lot of public interest. But also increasingly, we've seen a lot of people like also recently we have seen comedians get into influencing. We've seen musicians also get involved in it. And now increasingly, sports personalities and sports commentators, of which both of you are. And that's why I was curious to have you here with us today to discuss influencing from a sports perspective. So can you tell us, let's start with you, Moses, what does it mean to be an influencer who discusses sports?
Well, when you look at the Ugandan industry, many look at it as someone who just posts live or action sports updates. But ideally, it's supposed to be someone who talks about the sport, but also goes a little bit into the depth of things. And even if it is a live sport, you're not just talking about the live scores, talk about who has overtaken who in, say, if we're talking about Formula One, you're ideally giving people the ins and outs of what's going on and giving them the details that will inform perhaps what their thoughts are, but also perhaps inform their decision making. So for me, ideally, that's what a sports influencer is.
Okay, and do you see yourself as being involved in educating people about the sport in question? Because a lot of people have only a surface level interest in a particular sport and maybe not appreciate the deeper intricacies that are involved, or some of the technical aspects of it. So do you see yourself as being involved in that, in letting adding to people's understanding of the various sports that you do commentary on?
Yeah, I think I do. If it is football, I normally try to go in depth about the football. If it's about basketball, I try to go in depth about basketball. And even if it is Formula One and rugby. So I try to go beyond the little nitty-gritties that everyone can pick from anywhere else. Because the challenge about the industry that we're in is anyone can read something from anywhere, but it's that added advantage that you give towards the information that you provide on the platform that people will benefit from.
Okay. Well, let's talk about you, Mr. Eric. What about you? What is your role as an influencer? What kind of conversations do you like to have?
Okay, basically, I can, what you talked about sports influencing and its time, I can give an example of the radio presenters. They have been there over the years. I would call them as the pioneer sports influencers because by that time, radios, TV stations were very few. And of course, having DSTV, you were the rich people. And now radio stations were the only influencers by then. And those are the presenters. But going forward, slowly the TVs came in and everything was that. So as an influencer, what more could you add up with everyone now? Let's say our family having TV stations. What more can you give the viewers or the listeners as an influencer, what product can you adapt to that? Let's say I've watched a story about, let's say, a footballer, but what more are you going to talk about that footballer? Yes, he scored a goal, but can I talk about his earnings, his family, how he lives, how he trains? So you're influencing them to know more about this person, and they know whenever I need this source of information from this source of information of this player, I'll come to this person. But when you give them the basic information, remember you're competing with a media house,
Right.
and you are an influencer, so you need to go to the detail of information of that particular person. So I will call that an influencer.
Now, when it comes to certain sports, especially sports like soccer, the fans can get very tribal, so they sequester themselves into the various camps. This is my team, that is my team.
Yeah.
And so if you are trying to engage as an influencer and trying to discuss these aspects, the deeper aspects of these sports, do you normally see yourselves like courting the anger of the fans of a particular team who may not like the fact that you may not be saying the most flattering things about their team? How do you navigate that? Because I'm sure you've dealt with a lot of abuse from fans who feel like you're not representing their team very well. Is that something you've seen, Moses?
Yeah, it is. And I think for me, what has helped me over the years is the fact that I've been on radio for quite some time. I've been on radio since 2016, but also I've been a writer for some media houses, and I think that has helped me to learn how to be objective, but also how to control conversations with people who may get triggered by some things that you say. And I think one of the things that Eric was talking about that I want to probably give a highlight of is when you find a lot of fans now, they talk about statistics, and statistics is a very American thing. Now, for someone, you'll come and say, Kevin De Bruyne creates about 18 assists in a game in a season, and someone will say, but I think Benrahma is better than him, and they will not understand where you're coming from. Now, for some of us who have watched football for a very long time, or what you've called soccer, who have watched soccer for a very long time, you realize that there is more to the game than just assists. It's about how do they control the pace of the game, how do they dictate the direction of the game, when do they know to cool down the tempo of the game, and how to amp the tempo of the game. And so you find that if you are able to give that kind of conversation, then many times the people who read your tweets, who read your comments on Facebook, will now start to understand the kind of influencer you are, or the kind of analyst that you are.
Is there a need to disclose your affiliation with any particular team before a match begins? Because I feel like people may be best served when they are informed of your biases or potential for bias. Do you say, okay, speaking as an Arsenal fan, which I don't know if you are, but speaking as an Arsenal fan, just so that we're clear, this is my view on and this is my take on the situation. Do you normally have to disclose that? Because then if you don't, in the comments, people will just say, this one, don't listen to him.
I think one of the things that I have is most people who follow me know my affiliations because I've been very loud about them. But then most of them also follow me because I'm very objective.
Okay.
Because if, say, I'm a Real Madrid fan, I'll categorically speak about how Real Madrid are not doing the right business at this particular time and why they are succeeding at this particular time. A clear example is, for example, when Manchester United signed Casemiro, a lot of fans would have expected me to come out and say, he's a bad signing for Manchester United. But I came out and said that he's actually a good signing for Manchester United because he understands the role of a deep line number 6 or midfielder. And then I also spoke about how, Real Madrid are not going to feel so much affected by his departure because Real Madrid are a team that always knows how to prepare for a time of departure. Talk about when they signed Tchouaméni. He's a midfielder who was ably fitted into the footsteps of Casemiro. They are so big, Casemiro, but you can see that the impact is there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eric, what would you say to critics who would argue that the sports commentary space and influencing space is a boys' club? Are there a lot of female voices in there? And if not, should something be done to make it more inclusive for women?
Can I start with the tribal question you asked?
Sure.
Yeah, so basically, when you talk about the tribal setting and everything about sport, I think that the tribal setting helps in the growth of sport.
Does it?
Yeah, it helps very well.
Yeah.
Let's say, okay, I'm going to use teams. Let's say Onuparaka is from the northern, right? West Nile?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's from the West Nile region. If we're to push for the West Nile region for the growth of the sport, by the time we're coming, we know we already have West Nile as that. When we come to the Uganda region, that's right. So we are putting a sport in basis of regions. And by the time we come to now get people who don't have teams in their regions, they decide on where to go. So it helps in the regional basis, and the tribal bit helps.
So in other words, so utilizing a friendly rivalry.
Exactly. So
friendly.
Yes.
It has to be friendly.
it has to be friendly in that way.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the ladies not being in the sport commentary and everything, you know, with time something has to come in. We have to push in and we say, please, can you come in? Because they also saw it and they say, oh, we are not in this sport because the men have dominated it. So when we have the few who are already joining, we have to put them up so that we influence them to influence the others.
Okay, so you do try to offer them support and encouragement.
I have like 3 who are top. Actually, they are top. So they always share with me their posts. I reshare their posts and everything. But they have very good content to share online. But because it's a male-dominated industry and they are just trying to come up, you have to give them that helping hand.
I think, just to add on, I think there are 2 ladies that I follow religiously. But also, I think you know some of these others. This one that now journalists per se. Asha Komugisha is a very good sports influencer, but also sports journalist. Aisha is also one of those. But I'll talk about the ones who you would call just sports influencers. There's one, she's called Sandra, and then there's Jules. Now, Jules has become a very big phenomenon on Twitter because she follows football so much that she's able to predict the outcomes of the game.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
And many follow her because she's able to dissect the game and then tell you this will be the outcome of the game. And many a times, she's right.
She's like that octopus.
Yes. Exactly.
I forget his name.
Paul.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, this is powerful, and of course, as other girls or women see that, they also feel like, yeah, hey, this is something I can also take an interest in.
True.